Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Oh my goodness, week one of prep, check. It is done and it was way harder than I thought. So I obviously haven't tracked macros or tracked my training volume. I haven't really been consistent with a program for a good 18 months. I've obviously just been focusing on rebuilding my businesses, getting everything kind of set up, and of course, like writing books, doing apps, all the cool fun stuff. So prep just hadn't been on my mind. In fact, dieting definitely had not been on my mind. So it was quite, I guess, a change of pace. I think this past week, kind of stepping back into, a prep, and I've got several things that I found to be significantly more challenging than I thought. But I'm also really happy with, I think, how things went. And I'm going to show you all of my data. I'll go over my entire week, macros, fiber, sodium intakes, my training volumes for each of my individual sessions. And you can see kind of what weekly volume I do compared to maybe your own training, just for comparison's sake. But please know, on that note, everybody is a little bit different. I don't know that I've ever had, a single client that, has the same kind of training volumes for a similar or comparable program. It tends to be very individual. So, our strength all varies. But we'll talk about that a little bit later when I look at my check-in data. So I think the hardest thing this past week was remembering to track my workouts, energy expenditure. You'll notice right now I don't have my watch on because I'm not in the habit of wearing it. I guess if I remembered to put it on, I'd put it on. But consequently, it meant that I didn't really get to track my estimated energy expenditure from my resistance training sessions. That also meant that I didn't remember to, or actually I did once, track my energy expenditure for my HIIT cardio sessions. So my HIIT cardio, if you followed along on last week's video, you'll know that I'm doing 60 minutes of HIIT. That could be anything that I like. There's no locked in hard or fast requirement. It's just burn this amount of calories or estimated calories doing any kind of cardio that you prefer. And obviously I forgot to track one of those sessions because I didn't have my watch on. And then also because I didn't put my watch on, I also didn't track my steps every day. So, or I might have missed like the first hour or something when I got out of bed to feed the cats and kind of started getting ready. I'm like, oh no, my watch. So there is quite a lot of missing data, which you're going to see on my sheets. But that doesn't mean that I didn't do the required tasks. I just didn't get the tracking component. And that's so normal. I think I would have the same expectation of a client. If you were brand new, you're coming to work with me and you'd never tracked macros before, or you'd never really monitored or observed, your estimated energy expenditure or just your movement in general. It's really hard to pick up those new behaviors. So I'm totally giving myself some grace this week. It takes about 63 days to be exact to implement a behavior consistently and then have it become, a habit. So I'm excited to do better this week. So yeah, I think the first thing that I wanted to say, I guess, not only did I not remember to put my watch on, I would also, even the days that I had it on at the gym, I would forget to start the timer. So I'm still a little bit uncertain of how long some of my workouts are taking me. Obviously, I'm really busy, and I know that many of you guys are probably in a similar boat. You're trying to be efficient with your time when you're getting into the gym. So, having a rough idea of how long this workout should take me so that I can kind of get in, get it done, train hard, and get back out and back to business, that's really important. So I'm very excited to have another shot at that this week. I think the next thing, for obvious reasons, tracking macros, so difficult. Look, I'm not going to lie. I thought I would be like, yeah, this is fine. It was the bane of my existence coming back to track macros. I guess not only from the perspective of just, I'm in the kitchen, I'm wanting to eat something, just where's my phone? Like, I've actually been really enjoying over the last couple of months, or we'll say a year and a bit, not being glued to my phone. It has been so freeing not to have that with me. And of course it has facilitated me like getting a lot of things done in work, that all that free time that, previously might have been taken up with just tracking macros or even just scrolling internet or Instagram. It was definitely a nice experience. So I guess now I have to have my phone with me. So I do remember laughing like, where's my phone? I don't even know where my phone is. So that habit is going to take a little bit of time getting back used to. But then also, I guess, putting everything on a scale. Oh my God. I'm like kind of pulling the cobwebs off my scales around the house. So I'm like, where are they? I think I've got another one. And I have so many counters in my kitchen. So the layout of this house is kind of strange. The kitchen's huge. So there's like 5 different counter spaces or areas that you can prep in, and they all have a good amount of space. So I'm used to just like preparing wherever I want. And I'm like, oh damn, does that mean I now need 5 scales? So just for convenience. I'm probably not going to do that, but I definitely pulled out 2 of them this week. But I mean, that was so challenging, just trying to get back into the habit of, okay, I'm going to eat a bowl of yogurt, or, lately I haven't even needed the bowl because I've just been using, like, my favorite is the Noosa. It's like the pot set, thick and creamy, full fat. I just eat the container that's like the size of my palm. I just eat it out of the container. Like, I don't need to put it in the bowl. I'm not weighing anything out. I'm not mixing anything in because it's got all the delicious like fruit at the bottom. Like, my favorite is the lemon one. But now I have to go back to like the fat-free versions, and I've got to make it taste nice. So it's just been just fun. It's been a fun experience. I won't say that I really, it didn't bother me too much, but it was very eye-opening. And then in addition to putting everything that I eat on the scale, I also found it very difficult to have to make it into a meal. So like now I'm a little bit more conscious of my protein intake again, more conscious of, okay, well, what was the total caloric value of this meal or snack, knowing that I have a ceiling now, which I haven't had one of those for a long time. So, oh my God, I was like, I hate this. It was so funny. But I did make a concerted effort over the weekend to do some prep. Last week I was a little bit unorganized. We had so many things going on at work. Beta testing. We're at the final stages of my app. So I have just been glued to the computer, kind of going through things, testing, making sure that everything's working before we launch it. So I didn't prepare any meals last week. I did buy groceries. So I bought a lot of things that I knew would be beneficial. Lots of the low fat options, reduced calorie options. I think I actually bought a bag of sweetener again, which I had completely taken out of my diet, and it was very necessary. I think having IBS, artificial sweeteners and all of those types of products, whilst they are extremely helpful when it comes to getting stage lean, I will say that my stomach, my GI, isn't as happy when I'm having those, unfortunately. I definitely noticed this week a bit of a shift back in some just kind of dull pain in my stomach. It's only like a 3 out of 10. So, but I mean, I'm like, oh gosh, if it's already at a 3, I wonder what it's going to be like by the end of the prep if my macros end up getting a little bit lower. But we'll deal with that when and if it happens. So, I definitely don't want to have the same week that I had last week, because going into the kitchen and then kind of having to make things from scratch, it was more time consuming than I would have liked, just based on everything that's kind of happening at the moment in business. So on the weekend, I went and got some groceries, and I prepared several different dishes. So I'll put up a couple of pictures for you of what they look like. So one of the meals that I prepared was a red curry. I actually used a pre-made product. I don't know the brand. It might be like Passage to India or one of those types of brands, but it was an Indian brand that typically sells like tikka masala and chicken korma and all of those delicious types of Indian foods. But they had a red curry version. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's probably a little bit easier than me going to the efforts of getting all of the spices and the herbs and things to make my own curry, which is what I've done historically. I probably, now that I've tasted it, I probably will go back to my preferred recipe. But I think for a packaged product, it was really good. The macros were fantastic. I think it was like 60 or 70 calories per serving of the sauce, which is excellent for how much flavor it had. The only reason I'm saying I don't like the flavor of this particular product was because it was really garlicky, and I obviously have IBS. And at the moment I'm trying to, because I haven't had any symptoms for such a long time, I'm trying to, I guess, very slowly add things back in one at a time and in small quantities. And this product definitely was very garlic heavy. I didn't have extreme symptoms or negative symptoms or anything, but it was enough for me to go, yeah, I think I prefer to make this from scratch on my own. So the same brand also does a chicken korma. Love it. I don't know whether you guys are fans of Indian food or not. We grew up my mum would take us to go and get like Chinese food. We'd also go and get Indian food. We grew up, I worked at a Thai restaurant. That's where I learned how to cook like all of the Thai dishes. So I definitely like having a bit of diversity culturally in my diet. So this chicken korma was so good and very macro friendly. So again, I'll pop up the recipe and the ingredients and I guess the brands too. Obviously that'll be listed there for you. So that was really good. I'm definitely flogging that this week. I also have been a big fan of meatballs. So obviously you can buy lots of extra lean ground beef or ground turkey or ground chicken. So I'll just take the whole portion of ground beef or whatever the protein source is, and then I divide it out into, I guess, like 20 meatballs or whatever it is. And then I've been stuffing them with like a light Laughing Cow cheese. So super delicious, so easy to make, by the way. And then I've been using like a tomato basil type sauce. So very lean, like anywhere between 96 to 99% fat free. And then because we're using a red sauce, also super low, I wouldn't say it's low calorie by the time you add in all of your carbohydrates, your pasta or however you're going to serve it. But the meatballs and the sauce itself are very lean. So low calorie, which is great, and also super satisfying. Like I will serve that with zoodles or a combination of rice and cauliflower rice, just to kind of modify the calorie content just a little bit. So that was another, I guess, prep session that I had. They were delicious. So I've got those prepped for this week. And then I also found a couple of different products by G Hughes. So if you haven't used the G Hughes range of sauces, they are low sugar, no sugar, depending on the sauce or the flavor. So I have a bit of an obsession at the moment with honey mustard, and some of the products have lots of garlic and onion, so I can't have them. But there are a handful that don't. So I'm going to be trying their honey mustard seasoning, or not seasoning, it's like a stir fry sauce. So I've got that with chicken prepared for this week. They're all super easy. I mean, to actually do the prep for all these things, it's like 20 minutes for each meal. One and done. I divide it all out. It's all in separate containers, so I can literally grab it out of my refrigerator, pop it in the microwave, heat it up, and then I can quickly get back to work, which is very helpful. So as far as like snacks and things, I haven't really been much of a snacker. It's not me. I'm more of a sit down and eat a giant meal kind of girl. And because I've been eating so many fun foods for the last 12 months, there are some amazing burger restaurants around where I live. So there's a place called Burger Stop. Their menu is insane. I'm going to link it here because it's so freaking good. It might give you some inspo if you want to make your own burgers at home. In fact, the Burger Stop that we go to is, I guess, it provided some inspiration for our recent recipe book, the Team Beer Body Macro-Friendly Recipe Guide. So we've got a couple of burgers in there with onion jam and a jalapeno jam, just some unique sauces and flavorings that are just wow, that was so good. So, I've been eating much more calorically dense foods, and thus I've only been having like 2 or 3 meals a day, and snacks just has like not been on my radar. So I've definitely felt a little bit lost this week, kind of coming back to choosing snack foods, and I realized how much I can't stand snack foods, unless it's like I don't know, something super salty or like big flavor. I'm not interested. So I've pulled back out the rice cakes, which I don't think I'd bought a rice cake for, I don't know, that entire time. I was so done with rice cakes, but they are a really helpful product to use because it slows you down when you're eating. You got to crunch them, you got to chew them. It's not just like drinking a shake and you're done. So I can appreciate their ability to slow me down and actually have to kind of chew. But I got some fun different cream cheeses, and I'm curious to continue to explore like some of these like cream cheese but with savory and sweet together. So I have a jalapeno jam that I'm trying to work on. Like, if that's going to work with these snacks, I don't know. I also bought a bunch of the rice-based like cheddar chips. So instead of like just the big whole circular rice cakes, just the ones that are flavored. They have so many brands and so many products here in the US. So I have been eyeing out that kind of section for snacks. But I don't know. I think I much prefer just 3 meals at this point. And it's also more time saving for me at the moment because I'm so busy. So if I can get through a whole day only having to really get up and break from my work 2 times, that's fantastic. I don't want to have to work out a snack, be in my phone, tracking more macros. Like, that just sounds like a nightmare. So I will be probably opting for voluminous main meals and hot meals. I think I really enjoy those over just like a yogurt or something. So, as far as like how I plan to do better this week, actually, you know what? Before we jump to that, I want to show you my data because that will then help me kind of talk through how or where I can make some improvements. So let's jump over to the computer. We'll switch up the camera and I will show you all of my terrible tracking for the week. Alrighty guys, let's look at the data. Okay, so I don't think there's anything new that I need to go over you with on my check-in sheet here. So let's go and look at my I guess let's start with my targets from last week. So in case we forgot, I was shooting for 1408 and that was calculated based on what I thought my current maintenance calories were. So I kind of did a couple of full day like food recalls and then just tallied up what the average might be. And again, I wasn't tracking. So I truly had no idea. It was basically me looking at foods, making sure that I was eating an adequate amount of protein or as many days of the week as I could. Hardly any structure other than just eat 3 or 4 meals so that you can get through the day. So I guess the good news is I have exceeded my weekly rates of weight loss. So to me, that suggests that these targets are actually a little too aggressive. I'll talk to you a little bit more about that, but this is what they were. So I set my targets for protein at 132, which is kind of on the higher end of the recommended reference range for protein. So I like to use the reference range of 1.8 through to 2.9 grams of protein per kilogram of lean body mass. So that's definitely on the upper end. My recommended reference range is anywhere between like 114 all the way up to 150. So I actually recalculated my lean body mass after having had my DEXA scan. And if we pull that back up, I've got my scan here from last week. Let me zoom in so you all can see it a little better. So my weight the day that I had my DEXA was 140. And I had reported 116.7 pounds of lean mass and 18.2 pounds of fat mass. And you can see here my body fat percentage was 12.9, which is honestly mind-blowing to me. I think if I was to look back at historically when I've tracked macros in my off season, I have routinely, and sometimes it's been intentional, I was doing pretty rough and aggressive builds because I wanted muscle. So I would kind of fluctuate all the way up to like 19 to 20% body fat in my off season. And I did that for multiple seasons because I had a muscular goal, a hypertrophy goal, I should say. So for me to go and have had this DEXA scan and see that I've been able to maintain my body composition at 12.9% is just like, what? And I know that is like this past year, though I was kind of forced into not tracking and being very regimented, I had to prioritize so many other things. And I think I said in past videos, I don't know that I ever would have stepped away from tracking unless I was forced. And it's been a freaking blessing. I just ate intuitively. I ate mindfully. I ate with intention, and it was so good. And when I stopped like worrying about the small stuff, it was like, oh, wow, I can actually maintain my body comp and be healthy, like truly healthy, physically and more importantly, mentally, by letting go of some of that rigidity. So big lessons learned over the last couple of months, years, I should say. But anyways, I calculated my protein recommendations based on this number here. So that works out to be about 52 kilograms. I obviously come from Australia. We're used to using kgs. So if I look at 52 kgs, and then the reference range of 1.8 through to 2.9, that's where I'm getting that 114 grams per day, all the way up to 150 if I was to sit on the higher end. So let's go back to my targets. So I was shooting for around 130 grams of carbohydrate and 40 grams of protein, and then 20 to 25 grams of fiber. And I remember when I said this, I'm like, this is going to be interesting because again, I knew that I was not prioritizing veggies. And I think I said last week, I didn't prepare no vegetables for myself like that whole year. I'm probably over exaggerating a little bit, but I would make a concerted effort to make sure that I had frozen meals that have veggies, and I would choose like high fiber bread and high fiber like wraps and other carbohydrate sources. But I didn't necessarily go out of my way to like eat all the veggies. And part of the reason was I was so exhausted from eating so many veggies, because I have so many, like such a low calorie targets for historical contest preps. And part of the reason that my calories have always been probably lower than what you would expect is because I'm freaking sedentary. I sit right in this chair 15 hours every day of the week. And then sometimes on the weekends, I do a little bit as well. So I'm so sedentary compared to the average person. I'm not out running errands. I don't even do my own groceries. Like I order them online because I don't have time to get into my car. So it was quite fun actually on the weekend when I went to the grocery store and like picked out my own produce. It was kind of nice. So anyway, I digress. That number there scared the living heck out of me. I'm like, how am I going to do that when I haven't eaten any veggies? And it was quite an adjustment. I mean, doing some of that meal prep was definitely helpful, but I also realized like I could definitely live without vegetables, but I'm sure many of you could too. So there was definitely okay, I'm doing this because I know it's going to help facilitate this goal. I also know it's good for me. And now that a few of the big life stresses have kind of been checked off the list, I mean, my divorce took over a year to settle. So that was extremely just time consuming and mind consuming as well. So now that that's kind of done, I guess I have some more free mind space and time to like think about what I'm going to prepare myself for food. So I can't wait to show you how I did with these numbers. And then also from a training standpoint, you guys saw me go through my workout last week, 4 days a week, big sessions, 10 exercises or 9 to 10, which I was a little nervous about myself, but it's the only time I've got. And then 60 minutes for HIIT cardio. And I don't leave my house to do that. I have a Peloton, praise Peloton. I love my Kendall Tool. She is my favorite instructor, and I get it done. So I was shooting for around 600 to 650 calories for those 2 sessions. So 60 minutes in total. And again, I just want to reiterate, that's not every day. That is 60 minutes for the week. So that means 2 times I hopped on my bike for 30 minutes and that was it. And then my step goal was 8 to 10,000. I was also very nervous about this because I know that when I used to kind of have the time to go out and go for a walk, I did not. I mean, I was literally starting all of my businesses from scratch because the previous businesses were taken from me. So I was just like, oh, how am I going to do this? So we'll go and take a look at my numbers, and we can see what I set myself up for next week. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, the big old master data sheet. And by the way, guys, you can download this exact sheet if you want it. It's free. It's available on my website. I've got all the links in the description below, so you can go and check that out. It's just bia-body.com. And then there's the free progress tracker. So over the side here, let me put these. This looks like it's got a little bug or a glitch first. So it's gonna look, I got OCD, guys. Let me change this. Perfectionism still runs rampant in my veins, but I try to control it a little better than I used to. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so we got all the dates over here. Obviously, my starting date was Monday the 3rd. And then my goal, if I scroll back across, was fat loss. I'm shooting for about 0.6% of my body weight, which is the target weekly rate of weight loss. It's modest. It's easy. It's not too hard. As soon as I start to go close to 1%, the degree of deficit, like the amount of caloric restriction every day, just becomes uncomfortable. I've done it before. I don't enjoy it. I've got clients that go harder and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's kind of easy. I'm like, well, good for you. So for me, I'm definitely trying to stay under that 1% per week. Otherwise, my caloric deficit, like where my calories land, too low because I don't have enough time to move my body more. So you can see my really successful week of tracking my weight. So I had 4 successful weigh-ins, yay. I hope that I can start to increase the cadence. Obviously, I'm off to a flying start this week. I have tracked successfully the first 2 days of my week, but my weekly average came in at 139.3. If you can look in this column here, I guess the total weight change, and that's just looking start to finish because I don't have any other data to go by, was 1.3 pounds. And my goal, if I shoot over to my spreadsheet here, was 0.6%, which means 0.835. We guess we can probably round this down a little bit. There we go. 0.84 of a pound was my target. And I blitzed right past that. So I don't want to assume that in this first week of dieting that full 1.3 pounds is all body fat. When we initiate fat loss, it's important to remember, particularly if you are taking away your calories from carbohydrates, that there's very likely going to be a pretty big drop-off in your glycogen stores. And with that drop-off in glycogen, there's also going to be a reduction in your total body water because glycogen, I guess, is stored or coupled with water. So I do think that I was probably still slightly over my target. I'm going to allow or give myself maybe 0.2 of that total weekly weight loss, so 1.3 pounds. So maybe 1.1 pounds of that was probably fat loss. And then I'm going to give myself a little bit of that, extra due to the fact that I dropped my carbs pretty significantly, I know, based on the food choices. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize maybe I was eating more calories because I wasn't tracking. So when I make my new calculations for this week, I'm not going to use the fact that I've lost 1.3 pounds of complete fat loss. It's going to be 1.1 as I'm leaving a buffer for glycogen and water. Man, I get tongue-tied. And I also have ADD and I'm totally dyslexic. I'm a mess. But thankfully I have a good brain and it likes math. So let's keep firing through. She can do math, but she cannot talk. All right, so looking here, this is all of the data that I've input from my client tracking sheet. So you can see here my reported calories for the week. So day 1, off to a flying start, 1821. The goal was 14. So quite a few calories over. And again, I from that day, I already thought, oh yeah, I've done a great job at reducing my calories. I've cut out like my breads. I pulled out like some of the fats. Like I was using full fat products the whole year last year. So I'm like, yeah, I'll make a couple little tweaks. I know I'm going to land in the ballpark. Well, boy, was I wrong. So I overshot my calories by about 400 here. And again, I didn't beat myself up about it. I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess tomorrow I'll make an adjustment. So again, it's like, you execute, you do, you take the feedback, and then you make the adjustment. So I was much more successful day 2. You can see I came in at 1492 total calories. And then another good day on Wednesday. Thursday was a date night. So this particular day was so fun. There's a new restaurant that opened up down the road from us. It's walking distance. There's so many amazing like steakhouses like within a 5-minute walk from where I live. So I live on the inner coastal. So like just out here, there's the water. But then on this side, if I walk 5 minutes, not even, I come to the beach in Fort Lauderdale, which is beautiful. Guys, if you haven't been to Fort Lauderdale, please come here or come and rent my Airbnb. So yeah, we went to this new place. It's called True Luxe, and it's got a cool vibe. They've got the cool fun menus when you open it up and they're like lit up. That's novelty to me. Super fancy. They have like the drinks with the dry ice, so like the cocktails are all bubbling. I chose not to have a cocktail on this particular night because I saw their dessert menu and they have a giant carrot cake, which is one of my favorites, and it was like really dense, not like a sponge cake in the middle, dense with like multiple layers of frosting or cream cheese. So that is why my calories are so high on this particular day. One of the major things that I found was so difficult when I went to order dinner. We've had meals a couple of times since this restaurant's opened, and I have just kind of gone in previously, order whatever I want. And when I choose what I wanted, what I found was that I'm less interested in like the appetizers. I wasn't looking for like the tuna dishes or the prawn dishes, because historically, like when I go out and eat, I'm always choosing the leanest, most high in protein product that I can find, and then I'm looking for the leanest main. So I'd gotten into the habit of not having appetizers because I would have whatever I wanted, whether it was the pasta or the burger or the highest fat cut of meat on the menu. Like it didn't matter. I would just enjoy it. It's one meal. It's not going to, blow my budget. And if my weight oscillates a little bit too much, I just know I'll just eat better, cleaner, healthier, in the coming weeks or two. So I was so like bummed when I went to the restaurant. By the end of the day, I checked my macros and I'm like, oh God, I've only got basically protein left. I think I had like 75 grams of protein to get in at that meal if I wanted to be compliant. And then I had an annoyingly low amount of carbohydrate left. So I think I had in total about 55 grams of carbs and maybe 15 to 20 grams of fats left. So it wasn't too bad. So while I was getting ready, I poured myself a glass of wine here because I could weigh it out. That way I had it on the scale. I'm like, yep, 200 mils of wine. That sounds great. And then obviously that takes up a good 25 to 30, could have been a little bit more. I can't recall exactly. But yeah, I got to the restaurant and I only had 25 grams left of carbs. So I actually chose not to have a cocktail that night because I wouldn't have been able to eat anything else other than just my steak and my prawns and my tuna, which was, I guess, what we ended up doing. But I saw this dessert and I was like, you know what? I can't do what I've done in the past when it comes to competition preps. If I could go ahead and, hit my macros perfectly and, walk away from that restaurant and go, yeah, I was really successful at hitting my macros, but I would not have been satisfied. And I know that satisfaction, not just physically, like physical satiety, but also psychological satiety and satisfaction is also really important. So I'm like, okay, well, it's going to take me way over my goal for the day, which it clearly did. I doubled my fat intake thanks to that delicious carrot cake, and I have zero regrets. And then I also had, I guess we had some breads to start with, and it was like beautiful and warm. It was like a cob. And then just some of the kind of accompaniments that went with our appetizers. We ordered tuna, we ordered calamari, we ordered giant king prawns, and then we had steak. I guess they all came with a little side. So just, with all the dressing and the sauces and things that kind of went with those, my macros were well and truly done. So that's why that particular day is really high. And you can see my fiber is a lot lower too, because I didn't choose, a voluminous foods. I just went with what I wanted to eat that day, which was the carrot cake. Got back on track on the weekend, came pretty close to my targets for the next 3 days. And I was very conscious of the fact that I would have gone over my numbers. Had I wanted to come out perfectly compliant for the week, I would have had to have hit probably 1200 on these 2 days here to come out, with 100% compliance. But I was like, look, I think at that point I'd already weighed in and can see that my weight's already moving quite a bit. So I knew, I'm already ahead of where I need to be. Let's just be reasonable. So I had 2 1,300 calorie days here. And what was interesting is I wasn't as hungry on these 2 days kind of following this high calorie day. So it wasn't so bad. My numbers looked pretty low, but I was also on Saturday, for the first time, probably since, I don't know when, let's say a year, I booked myself into the spa here at the Ritz-Carlton and had a spa day, got a massage, and then went and used their facilities. For anybody that is coming to Fort Lauderdale, if you have a choice between Four Seasons and the Ritz, stay at the Four Seasons. I've been to both of these spas. The spa at the Four Seasons is obviously a brand new building. The Ritz is a little bit older, but still very classy, very nice. But the spa was so much better at the Four Seasons. So I know if I want to treat myself to a special day like that, which might be my birthday in March, then that's where I'm going to go. So the point of that conversation is that I was occupied for like 4 hours. So I had a 1 hour or 50-minute massage. And then I used these facilities for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and just kind of roamed around. When I got done, we went up to the pool deck, and then I did order a cocktail. So some of this carbohydrate is actually from a cocktail beverage, but by the time we got done, it was like 4:30 in the afternoon. So I knew I only have dinner left, and then I'm going to go to bed anyway, because we're starting to get tired. So you can see over here, you can look at my weekly average. I came in at 1582. My compliance was 12% over, so a little bit outside what would be considered appropriate, but it was week 1. So, I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect, and this week I have an opportunity to do better. The other downside was my protein. And again, this just reflects my dietary habits for the last 12 months without any tracking. It's only 87%. So my average came in at 115 when my goal was 132. So a little bit low. And again, that was just habits. I have not been going out of my way to eat at the highest end of my protein range when I wasn't tracking. So, this is probably those first 2 days especially putting me right where I would have probably been for the last year, if I'm being honest, because I wasn't being super mindful of my protein. But what's great is I haven't lost any muscle. Still been training hard, putting in the work. And again, it's just a little bit below what the recommended reference range is. So I'll do better at that again this week. I have made sure I've got a lot more high protein foods available to me. I talked about the meatballs earlier. I talked about the different meals that I've cooked for prep. So some of the Indian foods, the Thai curries. So I will do way better this week. I know it. So this section here is my training. So you can see here, I have done my 4 full body sessions, which by the way, guys, if you were signing up to do the Love Yourself Fit Challenge, which kicks off on the 15th, and if there are any stragglers, I don't know, I might let them in, but that starts on January 15. So we've got just a few days left before the registration closes. So that program is going to be available as part of you kind of signing up to do that. So that's super fun. And it's also going to go into my new app when we launch. So I'm just like praying that app, we're just waiting on Apple now. That's it. So once it gets approved by the App Store, then it will be available to you guys. So volume, this is interesting. My total weekly volume came in at 112,000 pounds. But then you can see my individual sessions. So day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, 40,000 was the highest of all of my sessions. And that was the day 1 program, which I felt it was definitely a lot more compound exercises or multi-joint movements. And yeah, I definitely felt a little bit sore after that session. And then my lowest volume was the day 4. And if you look at the exercise selection, they're smaller muscle groups typically. There's fewer like multi-joint compound exercises. And so it makes perfect sense why that session has a little bit lower volume. But I think ultimately my goal will be to, slowly see that these numbers go up over the next 6 weeks, just to make sure that I'm putting in a good amount of effort. So you notice this section here is completely blank. I didn't wear my watch. By the way, I went and got my watch because I realized when I started filming this video that I didn't have it on. So watch is back on. So for what I tracked, this one session here, which was my basically a leftover session. So for the first 3 days, I had to cut off the last exercise or two because I had to go. So it was mostly like abs and maybe a tricep or a bicep. So this session here was pretty short. I think I had a Bulgarian split squat that I didn't get done. So that was performed on this day. So I kind of understand why the caloric expenditure was a little bit higher than I might have thought, just because that one exercise is so difficult. So yeah, all I know now is that for each of my sessions, I probably will shoot for around maybe 350 to 450 calories per session. I'm just guessing because I don't have any data for that. So I'll probably set my target caloric expenditure for my training sessions this week just to make sure I'm consistent with my output so that my energy balance is consistent. I'll shoot for between 1200 and 1500 calories just for my lifting. You can see here, I also did my 2 spin sessions, and one got a little bit more energy expenditure than the other. This session definitely felt hard too. You know, when you do a class and you're just like, whoa, I'm so much more gassed out and having a really hard time, like, you know, with your leg drive and all those things when you spin. I was lucky to get 300 calories. I know for the last 5 minutes, I'm like, you can do it. So we got it done. And I hit my weekly caloric goal for that. So I came in at 610, and that's right where I needed to be. And then my low intensity steady state, I only got in 3 walks this week. So you can see those are the days where I get closer or exceeded my goal. But then the other days where I don't go for that intentional walk, I didn't track 2 days because I didn't have my watch on. But you can see my non-walking days, my steps are really low. And again, I'm just sitting here, I don't do anything. So weekly average steps came in at 7,500. I will do better this week and be a bit more intentional. Now, the one thing that will potentially influence whether or not I hit my steps will be is if I decide to do a walk versus maybe an extra spin. So if you look here at this 60-minute walk, and I also had our dog with us at this point, so I was just kind of cruising for 20 minutes of it while we take her for a lap, drop her off, and then finish our walk and go a bit faster. So for 60 minutes, I expended 230 calories, whereas for half of the time, so 30 minutes, I can expend a little bit more. So what I plan to do is if there is a day where I cannot get a walk in because I don't have 60 more minutes to just go for a leisurely, well, it's not leisurely, it's brisk. But if I don't have time to go for a walk, I will do a 30-minute spin instead of, because they are equating a similar amount of calories. In fact, the spin might be better. So I might even only need to do 20 minutes, and there are plenty of 20-minute classes on the Peloton. So that might get me closer to what this number actually is. And then that's going to influence my steps. So even if my steps are a little bit lower on, you know, from week to week, as long as I know that, okay, if it was just the days that I didn't get a walk in and I've replaced it with something else to match calories, then I'm good. So I won't be too hard on myself if I don't hit that step target, if I've also done the HIIT cardio to make up for it. So that is my week. Now over to my adjustments. So you can see here, I have taken my calories up by a little, not a lot. And here is why. So first and foremost, I want another week of tracking consistently and being more diligent and making sure that I've got everything recorded. So based on what I lost, which was 1.3 pounds, remember I said earlier that I'm going to do away with 0.2, assuming that it's just glycogen and water. So it wasn't really body fat. So that would see me about 0.3 of a pound over what I was required to do in this first week. I don't want to do more. I don't need to do more. I want this to be an enjoyable process and sustainable. So what I calculated my actual surplus, or what I calculated as being my excess calorie deficit this week was about 114 calories. So there is plenty of math that kind of goes in behind that. I've got various videos on YouTube that kind of talk about how we make adjustments, and also in my challenges, one of the challenge guides, I actually write out how you make that, do this math. But I exceeded my weekly goal by 0.3 of a pound. So that equates to about 114 calories too few. So I could, in theory, take my calories back up by 114, which would see me, into the 15s, which would be nice. I'm going to play it on the safe side this week. I just want to see one more week of how my data tracks. And then if I'm still losing at a weekly rate of weight loss that's too aggressive for what I've outlined over here, then I will go in and give myself a little bit more flexibility. So that is going to be my new target for this week. You'll notice I've also brought my protein down, and that is partly because I was a long shot off my actual goals this past week. So obviously you can see here, I was only 87% on my protein compliance goal last week. But remember I talked earlier about my protein requirements. So that range exists for a reason. It's not because if you sit at the top end of the range, you're better than if you go at the low end of the range. That's not the case. As long as you're in that range, you're eating an adequate amount of protein. So knowing that I did start to feel a little bit peckish last week, and I felt like I was probably sacrificing too many carbs and fats for my food preferences, that's why I'm going to make that little adjustment down, and it will free up some carbs and fats to have a little bit more flexibility with my foods. And you can see here over on my subjective scoring, my subjective scoring here, my hunger and fullness, it was pretty moderate, like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being very high. It was normal, throughout the week. But then that day where I ended up eating more carrot cake, the Thursday, I was hungry that day. And I had even said, to the people that I was with, like, whoa, I must have been eating a lot more calories in my off season than I thought, because of how hungry I am. I haven't thought about eating food, let alone ordering a dessert, in the longest time. So to give myself a bit more flexibility every day of the week so that I don't get to the point where I'm like ravenous like this, I'm going to reduce my protein by a few grams. So from 132 down to 125, I'm still in the range. And then I'm going to take my carbs up to 140, and I've given myself 5 extra grams of fat just to afford me a bit more flexibility with, some dressings. I mean, this isn't a smorgasbord, but it will certainly give me something. So yeah, no changes to my training. Obviously week 2 of Ms. Bikini Olympia program. And no changes to my cardio. Steps are going to be the same. And hopefully I have a better week. So that is everything, guys. I hope that you have a fantastic week yourself. If you have any questions about anything that I've talked about today, you're curious, feel free to leave me a comment in the question section or the comment section below. Don't forget to go and check out the descriptions in my, description section below. We've got all of the free downloads that are available on my website, which include things like my progress tracker, which is this document here. You can also get your hands on my glutes and shoulders program for free. They are provided, in this Excel spreadsheet. Let me close this so that you can see what it would look like. This is how I write my programs before they move into, our app. I wish this would load. Come on. There we go. So it will be downloadable in this form. So you can go in like you see me here, putting in all my training volumes. So that's available. There's also a place for you to download the first 2 chapters of my book, The Complete Exercise Guide to Muscle Hypertrophy, which is heavily based on the current scientific literature and the most comprehensive book to date on the subject of muscle growth. So I do not leave anything untouched. We have like 13 chapters of that book that cover things from how muscle grows, what are the expectations or what's realistic for muscle growth for a natural athlete. Again, referring to all of the scientific evidence. There is multiple studies cited in this book. We look at blood flow restriction. We look at muscle lengths, training at different muscle lengths. We look at a host of different training variables from volume, you name it, it is in there. It is a fantastic book. So if you want to check it out, if you want to test it out before you buy, you can download the first 2 chapters, or my favorite 2 chapters, for free on my website. So please go check out those links. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and give that big old button a like. And I look forward to seeing you in my next week's check-in. Thanks so much for watching, guys.